college football coaching has been in the spotlight with a lot of these big name teams underperforming this season. No, we're not. Hey.
Right. Sounds like there's a dying whistle.
Yeah, that's not a whistle.
Is that a life alert?
I know.
Come on.
I want to zoom in on Mike dancing during that segment, but there are a lot of coaches right now that are on very much the hot seat, and it's not just because their teams are underperforming. It's really because they've been thrown the kitchen sink at when it comes to contracts.
They've been losers.
You know.
Oh yeah.
And so I just want to kind of open up the floor and say, who do you think should be in the spotlight? Who should be fired? I'll kind of open it up with what I think is the most obvious one, but it's going to be kind of controversial. I know a lot of people in California want this guy gone, but some people think he hasn't got enough runway. That's Lincoln Riley at USC. Lincoln Riley got paid, the $100 million deal, the house in the hills. He has lifetime use of the private jet. They literally did everything. I think they bought his house from him.
Probably.
In Oklahoma.
Oh, probably.
Yeah. I think so. It was the craziest contract we ever seen, and he's just awful.
Yeah.
I mean, he had the Heisman winner in Caleb, and they won 7 games. They were 7-5. And then they go into a new conference, win a big week 1 game against your LSU Tigers.
Yeah.
And the rest of the season just fall off the map and can't even, call themselves
crazy.
a middle of the road team. So yeah, I think he's in trouble. I don't know how you guys feel about Lincoln Riley. If you think he needs to be given more rope, I would go at least another year with him because you paid him so much. But I think if you're talking hot seat, there's no one on the hotter seat. Then what?
Or hang him.
Dude,
No.
Out to dry. Hang him out to dry. Just fire
that's
him.
wild. Dude.
Fire him. Hang him out to dry.
Jesus Christ.
What do you
The
think of
hate
that?
comments were just going to be ridiculous.
What do you think of it? That's a crazy jump,
you're
Ryan.
terrible.
That's a crazy jump.
What do you mean jump?
That's a
Go ahead, Mike. Sounds like you want to say something.
Yeah,
That's a
Mike,
hell
what
of
you
a
talking
jump.
about?
Well, yeah, Lincoln Riley. If you watch the Caleb Williams conversation that we had last week, I have found an absolutely newfound and inferno level hatred for Lincoln Riley.
Oh, he's added to the hate list?
Oh, he's yeah. I mean, add him to a hate list.
Add him to the hate list.
Put him
Yep.
in the top 5, please.
Michael has a
Wow.
running
Dude,
list
you,
of things he hates, and
Didn't
that
even
list
know
is
who
long.
he was until like.
That's
3
not
weeks
true.
ago.
I've always known who he was, but I didn't do a deep dive into his career, and now I'm diving, and he is freaking atrocious.
Just for the viewers, in the off season, we're saving this episode when we don't have football to
is
talk
this gonna
about
be a
twice
whole
a week.
episode?
But we're gonna do a Michael's hate
Jesus.
list episode. And
we're gonna go through every player.
top to bottom, the entire list. We're gonna have to censor some of it because some of it gets pretty.
No,
graphic.
we're saying
But Mike-
everything.
Wow.
Mike,
It's going to be like the Diddy tapes. They're all coming out.
Yeah, this might be like a.
Mike's coming out.
This might
Yes.
be like a Patreon type episode where it's like, put it behind a paywall.
Patreon, OnlyFans.
Mike,
Yeah,
Mike
you
already
know
has
a
a
lot
paid
about
channel. He already
OnlyFans,
has a
don't
paid
you?
channel. Mike already. If you want to see more of Michael,
Dancing
click the
like
link
this?
down below.
He's got
I have a Twitch.
Does
Mike, what coaches do you think should be fired? You want to talk about Lincoln Riley? Just talk about whatever the hell you want.
I have quite a few. Lincoln Riley is definitely at the top of my list. In my opinion, I think. Well, there's kind of a trend with him and another coach, but him to start off, I think he was so unfit and unprepared for the conference change, and it has absolutely been shown on full display. The Big Ten has taken him for an absolutely walloping, and he has pretty much made his namesake off of the fact that his offenses are always uber dynamic, ultra powered, and they always have the stats and usually the quarterbacks to back it up. That was always in what we used to joke about as the Pac-12, which is the worst defense in college football at the time. And now when you come into a Big Ten, you are clearly you get thrashed around like you're tied behind a pickup truck going up and down some hills.
gotcha.
You're hitting some road bumps and you're about to die.
Yeah.
And so I think not only has he failed with how his team has produced this season, but also in the offseason, he has a private institution with millions and millions and millions upon dollars of bleacher money. He could go out and buy transfers and recruits, yet he doesn't do enough or fortify where it's necessary. His defense is a clear show of that.
They went and got to play devil's advocate there. They did go and get a couple high-profile transfers. Most notably, I think his name was Bear something or other on the defense, 4-star from Georgia, who then decommitted after went in the transfer after week 3.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a good look. That's probably a reflection of his program that he's building over there.
Yeah, but anyone else?
Quickly, just to stay on the thread of not ready to change conferences, Brett Venables is very high on my list as well.
Ooh, that's a good
not
one.
just because I hate OU. OU sucks, but also because of the fact that similar to Lincoln Riley, where they made their entire career off of one side of the football, and they just can't do anything on the other side of it. It's Brett Venables right here. He was known for his defensive scheming. Oklahoma in the nation is tied for 40th when it comes to defensive points against. But then their offense is 115th in passing yards, 85th for rushing, and 94th for points for. They are absolutely nowhere to be found on that offense, which is also crazy because they got exposed in week 4 and then they went on a 3-loss SEC losing streak. And I think even though their recruiting was top 25 last year, they still he wasn't able to put the pieces together. I think that calls for a removal of a coach.
I think Brett Venables is a fair shout.
Brent.
The only
Brent.
Yeah.
Brett.
Brett.
ass.
It doesn't matter. It's OU coach. I don't care about him.
OU sucks.
I would say Lincoln Riley, I think, is a little bit higher up on that list just for the sheer amount of money that's going into him versus,
Brent Venables has a big contract.
he has a big contract, but it's not all the extra stipulations and everything. Like, he's not getting a house in Beverly Hills. He's not getting private access
He's
to
in
a jet.
Oklahoma.
You know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that's a good
so
point.
Lincoln Riley,
Less taxes.
I think
Point.
Lincoln Riley's
Yeah,
a fair shout out, but I don't know if he's really getting those like high recruit 5 stars like the Georgias or Alabamas that are consistently getting at the like. I'm just talking volume, like amount of players. Like you might get 1 or 2 like big people
For Lincoln Riley.
Yeah, for Lincoln Riley.
It's a great point. Oregon's dominated California recruiting for the last
They have.
decade.
That's
That
true.
was pre-Lincoln
True.
Riley, too.
So I mean, say what you will, like he has a great offensive mind. I don't think you want to lose that as a program because where do you go after that from him?
they
Especially
travel.
USC is not like they have a great football history with like certain players, but they're not like necessarily the most winning football team. Like,
Very true.
So I think you hang on to Lincoln Riley personally. There's 2 coaches I would say need to go. One might be a little biased, but that's going to be Brian Kelly for me. I think in the past like 20 years, I mean, LSU's been a pretty formidable college football team.
Yeah.
We have,
sure.
3 national championships. 3 national championships. And Brian Kelly, listen, it's the same thing every year. I mean, he comes in, we're always touted as like a top 10 team that's going to be in the running. And this year, I was thinking with a 12-man or a 12-team playoff, like we have no excuse to miss this. We might not even be ranked.
Yeah.
You probably won't be.
We probably won't be ranked. Like, I mean, every year
Yeah.
we've regressed. He is absolutely terrible. And talk about someone that we're pouring money into. I mean, he's getting paid out the wazoo. We're getting new equipment, new everything. We have the money to go out and get like these dudes in the South that are just like 5 stars, like the Georgias, Alabamas. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we get a lot of great players, and
I say your recruiting class for next year is actually really, really good, but some of those players are being rumored to be,
Flipping.
no,
poaching
they're
out.
gonna flip because Brian Kelly's ruining the program. He doesn't fit our culture, our identity, and I just don't think really he's that good of a coach. Like he hasn't really done anything in his career that really impresses me. He's always been middle of the road. He made that one.
Notre Dame, yeah.
He made that one run with Notre Dame because they didn't play anyone.
They made the
And-
playoffs and lost 31-3 to Clemson.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, even before that, they made a national championship and played Alabama and got shut out
Yeah. It was
like 49-0.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it was like horrible. It was like the Manti
What
Te'o.
year did they win the Natty or go to the Natty?
They played? It was, look it up.
This is
2012?
before. This is before the.
Yeah,
This is before the college football playoffs.
Yeah, before
Yes.
college football.
Okay,
talking
it's
just
BCS. BCS.
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, okay. I was like,
Um,
wait. I was trying to think. I was like, I don't think they've won a college football playoff game.
No, I'm talking.
definitely
he was
not.
No, I
there
got
for a
you.
while.
Yeah.
But it's just always the same thing. Like he's never good. Another coach I think we aren't talking about that I think is on thinner ice when you look at the program he's the head coach of, the amount of talent he's getting. And I feel like what he's doing to the program, similar to what Brian Kelly does to LSU. I mean, he's pretty much like making this team fight in a fight with, their right arm tied behind their back, is Ryan Day. I think,
Shout out Ryan Day.
I think Ryan Day really, really needs to be looked at. I think for Ohio State, it's national championship or nothing.
Yep.
If they make it, fine, you can keep him another year. But if they don't make the national championship, like I think 110% he needs to be fired because there's no coach I've seen when I like look at a team that is just so talented and could easily be this year, no excuse not to be the best team in the nation, and still is iffy in those big games, and it's all because of Ryan Day.
Yeah. How do you feel about that?
I mean, number one, I promise you will always be Ryan Day. There's nothing that anyone for me, yeah. I mean, it should be for the world. I mean, like Mario said, it's very obvious, blatant.
But he doesn't get talked about.
And it never gets talked about
they win.
because all they do is win.
They're the number 2
It's because
team in the
everyone
nation.
else we're talking about, like LSU has those like this year 5-win years or 6-win years. Even when they have their 11-1s or 10-2s, we don't have those.
Yeah.
So it looks just amazing on paper, but you're 100% right. It's the worst thing ever. There's nothing we're ever going to be able to do because the athletic directors and the teams and the fans
It's
and
too good.
Everyone
You'll always
just
win 10
going to
games.
be like, oh wow, we're 1 game away. 1 game away, 2 games away. We almost did it.
That's
and
the
it's just,
culture almost.
and it's the worst. And it's the if you want to lose, it's the how I'm going to swing into my second most fired coach is if you want to be stuck with being mediocre or however there's different levels of mediocre obviously in the playing field. If you want to be stuck with mediocre, be with the coach you want. It's never going to change, and that's Dabo Swinney in my opinion. If you want to be stuck in that culture of just being mediocre for the last 3 years and probably for the next however many years of just being 4 years, and you're gonna be fighting with SMU and Miami to win the ACC. Like that's a fucking joke, in my opinion. Like I think Clemson should walk every year. They're still their Clemson brand. They're gonna get their 5-star recruits. They're gonna get anything they want.
We don't have any for next year.
Well, lately I'm saying because of the way the program's trending, and Dabo just keeps buy my stock, and you don't do anything with NIL or anything. He's the type of guy where they're gonna invest nothing, or they're gonna invest nothing in the team for the future because of the way his mindset is. And I just don't see him being any formidable coach that like players are going to want to go to in a couple years.
Yeah,
But
Clemson goes
you
to
get a lot of leeway because of you not staying. Like he didn't change his ways. It's the
I
Dabo
think
way that won.
That's what I'm saying. If you like I said, if you my
And
thing,
so-
if you
you wanna
want to
live
be
in the past.
if you want to live at average,
so
so really good for most people, but average for your program, then you stay with your coach.
Yeah, with Dabo, I think we talked about this. If you want to hear more about my thoughts on Dabo Swinney,
Great
we did an
episode. Go
episode
watch
I
it.
think a week or two ago on why I believe Dabo Swinney needs to be fired as someone who went to Clemson and is a Clemson fan. Had a couple viral videos on that. A lot of you had a lot of thoughts on it, but I agree. I think Dabo does get a lot of leeway because he took Clemson from actual mediocrity to an elite status. But if you want to stay there, you need to adapt or die, basically. And the only way he was treading water was unbelievably
players.
elite recruiting and really, really, really good coordinators. 4 of which are now head coaches in college football, which is nuts. That's what you see with those Saban coaching trees,
the
where
trees,
they're all head coaches. And I agree. I think if Dabo isn't able to, let Garrett Riley really do his own thing, because there's still a lot of rumors in the program that Garrett Riley is really not the one calling the plays, even though it looks like he is the one calling the plays. And then, the defensive coordinator is something we really need to figure out, and player development from like a QB coach. So yeah, I totally agree. I think Dabo Swinney needs to be looked at. Definitely if Clemson doesn't make the, ACC championship. If we get lucky, make the ACC championship, and then, get a bye in the first round of the playoffs, Dabo's going to have another 3-year window.
Oh, God.
It's just what's going to happen, and there's really no way around
gonna be the
that.
Ryan Day.
But no, I do think, if we end up losing, especially, I think the biggest game for Dabo, honestly, is the South Carolina game. South Carolina is the best they've been in 7 years this season. It's a home game for Clemson. Regardless of what happens in the ACC, you don't lose home games to South Carolina. And this would be the second in a row home game that we would lose to South Carolina. We lost the one to Spencer Rattler 2 years ago. Yeah. Then we went and won in South Carolina last year. But going home, if we lose, to end the season with 3 losses, no ACC conference championship berth, and lose to South Carolina and never hear the end of that, there will be a lot of pressure for him to go. And last thing before we kind of close this out, and then you guys let us know in the comments what coaches you think should be on the hot seat. With Brent Venables, it's a really interesting thing because he took over the team, didn't have his own players. They went 6-7 in the Big 12. Not great. Last year, though, it was his first year with his players. They went 10-3, finished tied second in the conference, and beat Texas. So that was like objectively a good season for his first full
Big
season.
12. You went 10-3 in the Big 12. That's
Doesn't
not
matter.
like
They
Yeah.
beat Texas.
He went 10-3 and beat their rival
Yeah.
as his first year with his full team. I mean,
Added
that's
4 wins to their record.
yeah. I mean, that's
That's
a
3 wins in the SEC.
I'm not. I didn't finish. I was talking about his last season. I'm saying This is his third season head coach. First year you can kind of throw out because none of those were his players, and Lincoln Riley left that team to dry.
Yeah.
Over half the team transferred in. They were playing a lot of freshmen. Like, whatever. That season was a throwaway season. His first full year, they went 10-3. They went to a new conference with a young quarterback and haven't been able to adapt. They're 5-5. I totally get it. They're underperforming. I think it would be a little crazy to jump off that bandwagon now with him, especially given what he did last year. Lincoln Riley had Caleb Williams and went 7-5, not even close to, you know, a playoff berth or a conference championship berth. 10-3 is a really good season, especially for Oklahoma when they haven't been fantastic since, you know.
And beating Texas, who's their biggest rival.
Yeah,
I
so
mean, they definitely did not beat us this year.
It doesn't.
But I mean-
we're not.
we're talking about last
No,
season.
I hear you. I hear you.
No, but I'm saying
No.
I think
you
that
say you get it, but you don't get it.
I do.
You don't-
get
you
it.
don't get it.
3 or 4
I do
times.
get
you don't get it.
I get it.
I just think that would be a little early to jump off
that's
of a
way too
coach,
early.
especially if you know, I think it's like an 8-year contract.
Yeah.
If you're like, you know, in his second full season and first season in the SEC, that'd be a little interesting to go ahead and
Yeah.
jump ship.
Freshman.
I mean, he's got to perform. I totally agree. And then I actually agree with you both on Ryan Day and Brian Kelly. I think those are kind of moves
I want
you
to call
gotta
for an
make.
investigation as well on Brian Kelly. I think we mentioned last week, you know, us on the podcast, we stand for social justice. Of
course.
You know, we don't stand for, you know, racism, you know, misogyny, xenophobia, transphobia, you know, like
Is this going to be a weekly occurrence?
No,
this
and Brian Kelly, all I'm
investigation
saying is we have to open up an internal
You're going
investigation.
to speak this into existence.
call? You
No,
wanna
no,
get
because
some, like,
listen, there's a lot of
signatures?
stuff to unpack, to uncover. I have internal sources there at Louisiana State University.
Can you?
He's been
don't-
counterfeiting money too. Have you
No,
heard?
he is not. But I've heard that he likes his women on the younger side. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Listen, P.
So-
Diddy, you know, we
Him
saw what happened with
him and Urban
Listen,
Meyer hang out a lot.
I don't know what's going on.
That's why Mike's a fan.
Yeah, no, Mike. Yeah, he got really quiet when we were saying that.
you heard it. Look at him. He's
Look, and he's like,
smiling.
well, Brian Kelly's not the worst. Yeah, you know.
How you doing?
What did you do in your personal
Yeah,
life? You know, that's
but, you know,
besides
I
the
think-
point.
I
Can
think-
you coach ball?
You know,
Sandusky.
as great of a coach as Brian Kelly is, I think we just have to separate ourselves from that. You know, that's all I'm
of
saying.
course. But yeah, let us know in the comments what coaches you think are on the hot seat need to be fired, and let us know what you thought about our takes. We got a lot of football. We're talking football pretty much every day.
Every
for
day.
the
Every
next
day.
couple
You're
months.
welcome.
So lock in with us. Hit that subscribe button if you're not, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bang.